Hi, I'm Rigger. This is You Alright, and wow, that was an episode. So, for those who don't know, this is a thoughts video, meaning that I've just watched the episode and I'm now going to watch it again. And as we go through, I'll give you my thoughts as we go. It's not a reaction, so no live feed, it's just going to be still frames so you can know where we're up to. So, you have to be familiar with the episode for this to mean anything to you, but if you are, we'll dive into it. Before all that though, be sure to like the video if you like it, share the video if you think others would like it, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and subscribe if you want to see more. But all that said, let's get into it. At the very start here, I actually want to make a comment. Before we dive straight into the episode, I want to give you just a little upfront thoughts as we see the lovely flying Baron Gulls that have made zero impact so far and appear as a cameo, which so far the Sulphurfish also appeared as a minuscule cameo, so really, not delivering on those Grim there. I know that's starting out on a negative tone, I'm not negative about the episode, I just wanted to get this up front, and also this is Speeches, the episode. So all this is really is a series of speeches. That doesn't mean the speeches are bad, but it is Speeches, the episode. But what I wanted to say is, looking at the Flying Baron Gulls, it is nice that it was really ambiguous how many Grim were left in the city. Well, not ambiguous, it looked like they were gone, Seemingly for no reason, Oz's blast seemed to blast a lot of the flying Grim out of the city, even though it shouldn't have done that, it had no reason to do that. And Cinder and Watt standing around, there were no flying Grim around, it just seemed weird. And now, they're back, so that's interesting. It's interesting that these guys are back too. It almost feels like Salem was holding them back because she realized they suck, but now they are free to do what they want because she's not around right now. I don't know, that's just me putting extra thoughts in, but it is nice to see them. I hope they do something towards the end, but we'll get into the actual plot now. And right as I mentioned, the Sulphurfish, obviously, yeah, they are here as well, but, if you saw the original design, they can do a lot more than this, so I'm hoping for something cool. Please deliver on that, because, not only is it doing right by the contest winner, but it was a really cool idea, so hopefully we can incorporate them somehow. I mean, if these little guys got down into the subway and started doing stuff, that would, make sense. Like, that's sort of where they seem to be headed, but we'll see how it happens. Hey look, at least Eddie survived so far. Good job, Eddie. I'm not gonna lie to you, the first time it cut to this, I realized I was supposed to, look into the foreground, but I saw the mines, and I'm like, oh, the Huntresses are here. And there's that woman in the back with the white hair, and then it cuts to the Huntresses right after this. I really thought that Robin had somehow got to the mines for a second, so, I don't know. But, yeah, these people aren't looking in great shape. I do like the, match cutting between the people huddled in Atlas and the people huddled down in Mantle, showing that everyone is basically helpless right now. Which, it's a nice, it's nice to, sort of reincorporate that idea that in the end all these citizens are completely screwed either way. Obviously, Mantle has it worse right now since they have a bomb threat, and that's got to be insane to hear. But yeah, both groups of mostly innocent people are just completely left out to dry. And I don't know if it was intentional, but it does send that message of in times of war and in times of struggle, it doesn't really matter what class you're in. In a situation like this, you're basically the same. You're both just huddled and scared and pretty much helpless, which, is a good undercurrent of misery and helplessness to this situation. Again, obviously people in Mantle have it worse, but still, it's a good thing to remember, and it's a nice parallel to draw up. I know I'm barely getting through the opening here, but there's a lot to say. I do like this as well, that the Huntresses, who are these people's only hope, really, of defense, not that they can defend against a bomb, but they also have basically not given up, but they're in despair. And you see Fiona, who was, even when things were horrible, was bouncing around and jumping around, and no, she's just as distraught and helpless and afraid. And all they can do is hug each other and hope, which is, again, really sets the tone. Okay, a lot to unpack. I'm gonna have to start using less frames, because otherwise this video will never get out, because I gotta edit them all in. So, while we're here, we've gotta talk about it. I was really surprised to see Winter marching with Ironwood. After what happened, I thought she might be more of a prisoner, and more being used for leverage, so but I'm not saying that's a bad thing, I just not sure I understand his reasoning, especially with how paranoid and off the deep end Ironwood is right now. I do really like that even, the other guards who came out, yeah, when your commanding officer walks past, you stop and you salute and all that, but no, they were scared of him. I mentioned this last episode, seeing that the general soldiers are terrified of him for obvious reasons, is nice to see, because everyone recognizes how screwed he is, except for Harriet, who comes in with, okay, Mara's going, is he really going to do it? And the options are, no, he's bluffing. Of course he's not going to do it. Are you really thinking he's bluffing? And then Vine, of course, is so nothing, just just completely on the level, just like, if it makes the kids listen, maybe, it's fine, whatever goes. And then Harriet comes in with, who cares? Who cares? I mean, even if you're an evil person, it's a dramatic moment, like, it's important. Salem would care, like, oh, that's an interesting development. Who cares? Yeesh. Harriet. I know people are getting annoyed at Harriet, like, she's obviously done antagonistic things and not been the best, and I've seen that there's growing hate for her. She's on a death list now. Someone's gotta kill her or something, right? She either is on a death list or has, like, I don't know, like, something happened to her. Something dramatic has to happen to her now, because that's, like, even for me, that's crossing a line. Like, when I say even for me, not that, like, I'm giving them leeway, but I'm like, oh, you can pull back, you can find explanation. That's really too far. So, who's she gonna fight? Winter? Maybe Winter. I think she's on a death list now. So, yeah. Or Robin, actually. They had that stare down, and she doesn't care about Mantle, and Robin does, and she doesn't really have someone to fight, so yeah, probably Robin. Maybe we can see Robin win a fight. Might be interesting. Wait, no, I just realized something. We'll get to it later. I'll bring it up in a minute. Keep going. Alright, so this scene's very important, and there's gonna be mixed feelings on it. I've seen so many people, I mean, the whole community is going, just defect already, just defect already. You've been given signs of defecting for the longest time. What's it gonna take? Like, you've been in pretty crazy stuff till now. What's it gonna take? So this is apparently what it takes. This feels like it took too much. Like, he should have defected before this. It's very weird. Not weird, I mean, I get that something crazy's happened, but it's like, you're defecting now? Like, there was so much crap before this, but alright, it's finally happening. So, Mara throws down the gauntlet, and he, like I said, like this frame says, he believes in him, right? So I get that it took a little longer to come around, but still, at least here it's like, oh, you're about to bomb innocent people. That's too much. I mean, shooting the councilman in the head was pretty far, and that was episode 1. But anyway, so yeah, gonna bomb innocent people and blow people to smithereens for real, not even just a threat. That's too far. And Harriet steps in. Harriet threatens to shut him up, which... okay, he's the best counter to her. He can just stop her so she can't run. But, yeah, we'll see how that goes, because he never uses it. But this scene is an interesting one, because obviously the Aesops are all over the place. The weird one here is Elm, right? Because Harriet is totally with Ironwood. Winter is playing along. Vine is a zombie man with apparently no feelings. Marrow is totally against this now. And Elm's like, he was bluffing. And then it's like, I'm not happy about this, but going along. Maybe she can come round? I don't know. It's hard to say. So she might be a fence sitter for this one. We'll see. She might flip over at the last second. So, interesting point from Marrow. He says, I used to wear this rank with pride. I see it now for what it is, a collar. Okay, very on the nose there with the dog, the faunus thing. But, I guess. It is relevant to the rest of the Aesops, who obviously are collared, shackled to apparently their responsibility that then even someone who's questioning it, like Elm, is not budging on. This is how you know Winter is just playing along, obviously, and saving his life. But here's the weird thing. Okay, so here, Ironwood's guns. What are they called? They're called Due Process. The black one is the gravity one, from memory. The silver one is the one with, like, bullets in it. And that had me thinking, like, this is the problem with sort of RWBY. Like, if you hear a gun click behind a huntsman, it's like, oh, well, it's going to hit their aura and it's going to hurt and suck, and there's enough people in this room to take down Marrow. But I was like, oh, I'm not really that threatened. But then I realized, is he aiming the gravity one at him? Because if he pulls that, it's going to blast Marrow really hard and send him flying backwards. At least at this range, I think it should hit Marrow. Like, it blasts holes in the ground and stuff if you shoot it too close. So, yeah, maybe that would have worked. But I was just trying to figure it out. I don't know if it was on purpose or if they just didn't realize what gun it is, but yeah. So Winter takes him down and says, oh, if you want a collar, I'll give you one, wraps him up, I'll take him to the brig. And again, Ironwood is dumb here, or just, maybe it's his semblance, he's so focused, but yeah, totally. Person who I totally can't believe I'm trusting already, who I thought was going to be put on TV and threatened to be executed as a traitor. No, you walk with me, and then you arrest this guy, and then take him off alone. That's gonna bite him. But you know what? Ironwood has gone off the deep end. I guess we just scratch it up to that, because it works to get them away from everyone. I'll go into this scene a bit deeper with what everyone says, but while we're here on this screen, I just wanted to point out that there's a great, a bit of attention to detail here, just in posing everyone. I've talked before about how, people standing around is usually bad, and in this season, they've done a fair bit better job. I'm thinking back to when they were infiltrating Atlas, and they were sitting around that computer room, and Blake was spinning in her chair and stuff, like, just putting idle animations or idle stances on people that really fit their personalities, and this really fits it. Because you have contemplative Oscar looking out the window in a very sort of, formal stance, because he's getting a lot more Ozpin. They do that through this whole episode. Everything he does, his motions are much more Ozpin. You have Emerald at the back, like away from the group, not feeling welcome, obviously, and sort of surveying. You have Blake, who is scared and huddled and probably trying to comfort herself. You have RWBY at the head of the table, who, is in the position of making choices and is obviously stressed about that. You have Yang with her back to the room. So, two things. She's keeping an eye on Emerald, which is smart because you can tell she's not totally on board with that yet. And she's also looking at RWBY, and she's also doing like her rebel thing. I'm not sitting or facing the way everyone else is. And lastly, of course, you have Weiss, who is not comfortable here and pacing, and that definitely fits her personality of how she thinks. So, I just wanted to say, minor point, enjoy the staging, and I like being back in this room under different circumstances with people sitting different places. So, yeah, just little wins. Because this is the episode of many speeches, this is going to be the episode of many pauses, many frames, and this episode might be out later than expected. So, let's go down the list the way they are doing it. Ironwood and Crow are in custody as far as they know. They have the drones are still watching Mantle, which doesn't answer the question, did they shoot down all the ships? Because the ships didn't receive an order to stop going. So presumably they kept going and they shot them all down. So that plan is completely dead if that's the case. And I do like we are bringing it up, Ironwood mentioned it, but we're getting it from essentially Ozpin's mouth. But yeah, Salem won't be gone for long. She'll get back. Like I said, the best Hazel said he got was hours. Let's say this is worse than that because I don't think he would be able to atomize her. You might have like 4 or 5 hours. Which they've already eaten some of that time. I do have this annoying feeling in the back of my head that the end of the season might be Salem coming back. Like the end of credit stinger or whatever is Salem coming back, and she's out of the rest of this climax. I'd be kind of disappointed in that, I think. It would really reduce her impact as a villain. People are saying that's happened already. I don't think it totally has, because if she comes back and is just as scary, then it's pretty bad. But the culmination of all this is RWBY saying it's impossible, and, jumping forward, she says that they're back in the same place they started, really, that nothing has really been achieved. And then, Emerald, of course, doesn't really help, and they say, why don't you just leave, but obviously, all that. But the point of this scene is this, that RWBY runs away, and people are probably going to give her crap for this. There's going to be people going, oh, she's runs away, or whatever. Like, no, this is really good. This is, for the first time, where, RWBY is the unflappable spark, and, there's been tensions in the team, whatever, but no, there's so much on her mind, and, yeah, she runs. Like, she's a kid, and she's supposed to be a leader, and they've dealt with crazy stuff before, but never this crazy. Her running is the most human thing so far in this show. It's a really humanizing moment for RWBY, and we'll continue with that in a minute, but it's just this idea that, especially when she opens up about more what she's thinking about, but you've hurt the fate of thousands of people in your hands, and not in a way you can fix. You can't go kill the problem. And, I don't know how old all my audience is, but no matter what age you are, I don't care if you're 70, you can't make that choice easily. And you're putting that on this kid, and everyone's looking to her for the answer. She's sitting at the head of the table, and she doesn't have it. She ran. And people are like, criticizing her not making a choice, like, fading between two things. And the show is brought up, you need to make a choice sometimes, and they will have to make a choice. But it's a much more human approach this way. Not, we're not sure what to make. We'll make a choice. Like, that's not great. But no. Like, in desperation, trying to run from your problem in, like, a way that won't work or anything. And she's not trying to actually run away, but just stressing over the top and breaking down. That is very real. So, I give real points to that. That's the correct response. If she sat there and just shook her head and didn't know, I'd be like, it's just, the usual. But no, this is really good. And I'm not someone who criticizes RWBY too much, like the character. I'm not as down on her as everyone else, but this is really good. I really applaud this. Okay, if you've been with my channel from the start, you know that I have a lot of investment in what happens between these two, because the first theory I ever made was about these two and what happens. So, I'd like to say, I'm not going to self-congratulate, because, whatever, but I do like that I was on point with what I thought the direction for Ren was going to be. I sort of criticized some of his actions earlier this season because they felt a bit off, but, yeah, he pushes people away so he doesn't have to feel things. That was the base of, the first thing I ever said, so, yay, a little celebration for me. But it is a good point, and one of the keys of this development for Ren is not just that he can see everyone else's emotions, but he's finally coming to terms with his own emotions, and that's what we're really talking about. I will say, I'm kind of disappointed in the staging here. I wouldn't have Jon here at all. He's not needed. He could have had, Jon elsewhere and started this with, Ren with his head down, and Nora turned away, scowling a bit, and he's saying, they won't go away? And she sort of shakes her head. Imply the rest of that, because I know that people will be like, oh, whatever, but you don't need Jon there, and I really don't think his input to this scene is worth it. I do like that there's an element here of self-blame from Nora, saying oh, just another ditzy move from Nora, she's trying to be aware of who she is, or how she's perceived, or perhaps her actions. And we'll get to it later. It's a little bit on the nose with the way she talks, but, it's okay. And, yeah. And, she's obviously wrong in that case. It wasn't it. It was a very necessary move. But, you can see that doubt, that self-doubt that comes in when you can only see yourself as the bad guy. And she's lashing out, but she's also lashing out with some cause behind it, as Ren will own up to. And here we see the obvious flip to that, the other self-doubt that Ren has, that came through to me at least in his actions when he was agreeing with Ironwood and trying to stay on mission and talking about training more, that yeah, he doesn't feel he's good enough. He takes all of it personally. I mentioned that a long time ago, with the rally especially, he mentions it here at the rally, that no matter what you say, he's gonna take it personally. No matter if he could have stopped it or not, he's gonna take it personally. He was there, and he let himself get distracted by feelings, and then things went horribly wrong. He's gonna draw the parallel in his head, and he obviously has. And he goes on to say that, yeah, his real failings were as a teammate and a partner, and I understand that Jon's here for that bit. He's here for he's part of the team, and I need to apologize to my team. And that, I understand, but I almost wish we just glossed over the Jon bit, because this next bit, yeah, anyway. But for now, for this half of the speech, really pretty good. I mean, Neith does a pretty great job delivering this, at least as Ren, it feels Ren-y. And, yeah, it really, at least, it finally explains to, I think, a lot of people who still weren't on board with what exactly the path was, and there's still going to be people who, say it was a bumpy ride, and it kind of was, but, it does make sense, and they both are suffering from a similar thing. Okay, yeah, look, no, I understand that you have an emotional thing. Okay, so here's the plan. You have an emotional thing where he apologizes, and that's sort of step one. And then you need to get Jon out of the room, and then you're going into a different tone. So your idea is, we start off with this apologetic tone, and then that covers Jon and the team for his apology. Then we need something to get Jon out of the room, and reset the tone, so we can come back from a sad, sorry tone to a sort of lovely heart-to-heart tone. I think you could have bridged those without the comedy bit in the middle. Just take Jon out of here. And if you weren't going to get Jon out of here, if you needed him here for this scene, or you really wanted him here, make it fit the tone. He doesn't have to go, I should leave, private moment. No. Okay, recently on my channel, I did a theory about Jon and Pyrrha and stuff, and it just got me thinking about Pyrrha again. And here, he's been through loss, he's lost love, it's very serious. He could have solemnly stand up and said, I'll give you two some space, and, walked out, and just kept the tone going, kept the music going. You don't need that break. You know how everyone complained that the Rhaenyra kiss is going to be forever marred by what came after it? The Tyrion stabbing? This is the same. This is two pretty good halves of a scene, but they're gonna be forever marred by this weird comedy beat in the middle that really doesn't work. It's not funny. The animation is weird. I know what they're going for, but it didn't come across. And then we have the really lovely moment we've been building to forever. So I'm really against this bit of criticism there. Because imagine you're a die-hard Rhaenyra person and you're gonna rewatch this scene. And you go in there and you watch the first bit and it's really nice, and you gotta skip through the Jon bit and get to the second half. Because those two bits together would be really sweet. But it's just got this awkward tire screech in the middle where everything comes to a halt. So, yeah. But we'll now get on to that second half. Okay, so, I'm gonna have to break this bit up into sections. I know, how long is this video going to be? You already know, you can see the timer. So, we get to here. We get to the 3 big words. I quite like it. I'm iffy on the way Nora said her lines. Not the actress, the voice is fine. But I just make dumb jokes and hit things with a hammer. I get that that's in her head right now. I don't know if it's the time for that bit. Not the time, I don't know, it just feels like the word choicing, I would have changed it. But we build to this moment. We build to the I love you. And I'm gonna give some credit here that I like the response. That it's not perfect. That it's not, well, not to be cheesy, but it's not a fairy tale. They don't hug and kiss and everything's fine. You see, that's the kind of quote-unquote letdown to the scene that I'm all for, because it's more mature, it's more real, it's more serious, and, you know, you can say that mars the scene, but in a good way, in a developmental way, without the Jons stuff in the middle. So, it's been a real journey to get here, but the words are out there now, and I did like, the animation on Nora's face was really great. So, you know, her eyes open at the word love, you know, of course, and, yeah, we'll keep going. Yeah, so the next part of this, Nora's VA kills this, by the way. Really great stuff. Awesome. I do love the response. He says I love you, and she turns her head away. And we get some more confirmation, a little backstory, I guess. When her mum ran and left her from Grimm. So assumably they're under a Grimm attack, mum ran away and leaves, she becomes Urchin to go near his village. That's fine. It's not the backstory for Nora that everyone was hoping for, like I don't know, maybe a flashback or something. Although, if you want to see, there's still a chance my thing happens. If you want to go back and find my very first video, if you're dedicated, you can see that there might still be a way to do more Nora backstory, but we'll get to that in a second. But it all adds up to that I've always loved you. And yeah, it's been obvious, obviously, but, you know, the response is sort of like, yeah, he knows that. Like, he smiles because she didn't, like, flat out reject him, which would have been horrible. But it's like, it's a soft smile of, like, it's finally all out in the open. It has that feeling of, you know, taking the weight off your shoulders that you always known has been there, and, you know, you sort of live with it, and then it's finally lifted. But there's more to this, and that's really good. And also, you've got to take into account that he can see what she's feeling now, which again, undercuts this whole thing a little bit, but, you know, it's fine, because they're being pretty honest. So, her response is that, you know, she can recognize how much better he's feeling, and how much better the head on his shoulders is, you know, the pretty head on his shoulders, which is a very nice way of putting it. But she needs to sort hers out. She needs to find out who she is, and she can't just dive into being together with him and dive back into being just them as a pair, being her identity. And I'm really happy we brought that back up, because it felt like, or at least to me it felt like, there was a real scare that we were just using that to, you know, pass on to Penny, because that was her lesson as well, and Nora wasn't going to stay at it, but no, we're keeping with that tone. So that's really nice, and he's of course supportive. And yeah, of course they finish on him giving her a boob. That's really nice, you know. It's sort of what has to happen. Like, if you're writing this scene yourself, you're going to do that too. But it has to happen, and it's really sweet. So, that's where they stand. Not a couple, they both love each other, but not gonna dedicate to each other just yet, because she needs to find out who she is before they compare. Now, we're gonna cut away from them, so I'm gonna take just a second. Way back when I made that theory, and if you don't know, the point of that theory is Ren's gonna die. Sounds very morbid, and you don't want to hear it right now, but this made me rethink my approach. Well, not rethink, but think over my approach. I'm like, does this count as... If I was writing this, does this count as stacking towards him dying? Everything he got, new powers, all that, I'm like, he's gonna die, because his power's too useful, and you give someone opportunity in future, so when you rip it away, it's very hard. And if I'm honest, this scene is exactly what I predicted would happen. Exactly what I predicted was the ideal scenario. And in that theory, the ideal scenario is exactly this. They split up, have time apart. Nora gets hurt. They come back together, and when they come back together, they reconcile and they talk it out. That's in my video. Go back and watch it. It's posted before Volume 8 started. And from that, they will end up going into battle, and Ren, now having opened up to his emotions and, you know, seeing how much he cares for her and knowing he can't really live without her anymore, will see her about to be killed and jump in front. He will save her, and I was like, oh, this is too sweet, they can't kill him now. But I think they still might. I think this adds up to he still dies, because as much as I'm wavering on my theory, it's so close to what I predicted, and it's still going to be even more heart-wrenching, and here's the moment, right? Like, it happens exactly like in that video, and he tells her, you know, now you can find out who you are on your own. Like, I'll always be with you. Those sort of things. And he dies. So, as much as I'd like to say I've changed my tune, I think I was really shaky on it, but doing this rewatch, I think they've just doubled down on how awful it's gonna be. In a good way. In a very sad way. And, yeah, like, please go. I'm gonna link that video in, like, the end card and stuff, just to show how close this is to what I said would happen, for the perfect scenario. When I say I'm waving my theory, I just thought, oh, they can't do it, it's too nice, but I realized this is exactly what I said. This is the setup. So, yeah, if you want my predictions, Ren's gonna die. Maybe, I want to say by the end of this volume, and it gives Nora the chance to find out who she is alone, and you can see the whole thing there. And that might be, like I said in that video, also a chance to do backstory, if they do a flashback of their life together, as Nora tries to process this, also in that video. It's scaring me how close I was. I'll get on with the episode, but if you're a diehard channel fan, you know what, if you see this, go leave a comment on that video, because I'll notice, trust me. Oh, one last note, I made a comment last time about how I wish the Bumblebee kiss had happened, and I explained there why. It's not just, oh, I want it to happen or whatever, but to me it made a lot of sense. And they did the head promise boop thing, 4 heads together, and so many people are like, well, you know, that's how cats show emotion and boop heads and stuff, but at the end of that scene, they also boop heads, so it's now officially just a remnant thing. If you like someone but you're not all the way there yet, you put your 4 heads together a lot. Just saying. They could have finished it on the boop, they finished it on the 4-head bop. Not sure how I feel about that. Like I said, episode of speeches, so we're on to the speeches. Next speech, Robin and Crow. I do like that their weapons are just kept in a locker. A locker that looks too small for his weapon. And I do like that the idea is that that weapon has a shotgun in it, and her weapon has arrows in it, and they kept the ammo with them. They kept it loaded. At least presumably. The upcoming fights might be pretty boring if they have no ammo in either of those. But we'll get through the first half of this speech. So they break out, they say put the cameras on loop, makes sense, and Robin is trying to rationalize with Crow. They're sneaking through the facility, go to the thing, and he's going to go up to Atlas. She stops him, and he says, look, he deserves this, I'm going to go up there. And she says, well, you know, if we fail, everyone dies. Maybe we can do this a better way. Now, Robin is the one speaking sense here, of course, but, you know, everyone wants that fight, I think, or a lot of people want that fight at this point. And as you know, I'm not one to push ships, but I did mention that this might happen when I did, like, my opening analysis for episode 1 or whatever it was, or, yeah. As much as some people are against that, obviously, like I said, I don't care, whatever works for plot. The animators aren't helping it with the long looking into each other's eyes, slow speeches, pushing him up against a wall. I know that it meant to be like, you know, hiding, but you can't deny that, once again, the animation is selling us a different story, or at least can be interpreted as. But back to their actual speech, we'll go to the second half. Yeah, look at this frame they end the next bit of the speech on. Just saying, guys. But to the content of what they talked about, Robin saying that Clover was a lot of things, and, you know, he was great, but you're a better huntsman because you were doing the right thing. And bringing up that, hey, this is personal revenge. You're doing this for you. Like, you can say it's for everyone else, but you're still out doing this for you. But you did the right thing when it mattered, and don't tell me that's changed. The other thing I want to point out is, it's still weird to me how sure Robin is of what happened. What I would like to headcanon, so that I stop asking this question, is that while they were in bindings, while they were in the ship being flown back, she used her semblance on him. She recovered enough from the crash to use her semblance on him, to get the real story, so she fully believes it because she trusts herself, she trusts her semblance. That would convince me. Therefore, for the rest of this show, whenever that question comes up, I'm going to try my best to remember that this is now my headcanon. That they couldn't have got to each other in the cells, they couldn't have got to each other after the cells, she was defending him in the cells, the only time they were together and could touch was inside the transport back. She was knocked out during the fight. Presumably, yeah, like, Clover's dead, and she doesn't believe Crow's a bad guy, but I believe, in my head now, that she gave him the truth test in the back of the the paddy wagon. So, just sticking with that. And I do like bringing up that, maybe you put Clover on a pedestal, maybe that's one of the things you had there is, he's such a great guy, right? And that she is recognizing that she thinks he is the better person for doing what is right. You didn't do the wrong thing, You were angry at him for just following orders, and you had a right to be. And, it was still unfortunate that he died, but you weren't wrong, And like she says, you're hurting and you've been hurting for a long time. He's clearly a man who's been in pain for a long time emotionally, and this obviously doesn't help. So, giving him, again, like I said way back, giving him a positive friend, a positive influence in his life that Clover could have been. Doing that Robin, be it romantic or just as a friend, whatever, is really good for Crow. It really will help, so maybe there's a chance for him to not be so sad all the time, eventually. Because I said long ago that I support this ship if it happens. I don't care about ships, but, if this happens, I'm fine with it, and that's why. Not because of, I really like Robin. I mean, I don't know much about Robin. None of us really do. But the positive influence on Crow is what I want. That positive person in Crow's life is what I want. That isn't a child. That isn't Ruby, an actual partner. Again, romantic or friend. Just a positive person for Crow to turn to. And if Robin is that, then I'm fine with it. So, last bit of the Robin and Crow part. The doors open to the elevator. And conveniently, that they're coming from the prison. And guess where Winter was taking Marrow? The prisons. So, yeah, that's gonna be the thing. They're gonna team up, which is nice. It might not be that smooth, but yeah. That was what I was saying before when I said I had an idea. Wait, hold up. I think if there's gonna be a fight, it might be another team fight. But it's gonna be like Winter, Marrow, Crow, and Robin versus Ironwood, Vine, Harriet, and Elm. Obviously, Harriet and Ironwood are the bosses in this scenario, and probably Crow and maybe Winter are the bosses. I don't know, it's hard to say. I could see any of them fighting Harriet, but probably I'd say that it would shake out to Ironwood versus Crow, Harriet versus Robin, only because they had that confrontation earlier in the season and she's the one who really doesn't care about Mantle, although I can see Marrow jumping in on that too. But then you have Winter and Marrow versing Elm and Vine. That could work. Yeah, it'd be interesting if they did it similar to the fight last time, but probably things go different. Everyone wants to see Crow kill Ironwood, I think, so that might happen. It's funny because, like I said, I would like to see Marrow use Stay on Harriet, because that's funny. If she's mid-sprint and he catches her and stops and then she gets killed by someone else. That could work. If we try and do more team fighting, people swapping partners and jumping around, that'd work. I don't know where they're going to fight, though. They need an arena. Maybe by the vault? I don't know, it's pretty rough. Because Harriet needs places to run, Crow needs places to maybe turn into a bird and jump around, and probably to be really effective in a cool fight compared to what we saw last time, Ironwood's gonna need somewhere to fly around as well, with his gravity gun. So, yeah. Be interesting to see what they have in store either way. But anyway, we've gotta keep going, because a lot left. Alright, next big speech. This one is, one I was looking forward to forever, because I've said since the start, I've been waiting for Ruby and Yang to be more sisterly in, fighting, making up, all that, and just being just them talking, That's why I was excited for the breakup at the start of the season, because fighting facilitates making up. But, yeah, interesting note to start with. I know the pause screen's the more dramatic moment, but, I like Yang having to she's trying to lift Ruby's spirits, Still trying to one-up me, huh? You guys beat the thing that we couldn't beat. And you see that Ruby, her head was really torn because she noticed, thankfully. She noticed the eyes. She says, he told you what it was underneath. Yeah, I wouldn't worry about that. And she's thinking it's human. Oh, yeah, I know it's human. Let's not think about that. And then Ruby goes, that's what happened to Mom. And, ooh, the gunshot went off. The metaphorical gunshot that cracked Yang pretty hard. And I've seen people saying that, Ruby should be going over and hugging Yang here. Maybe. But they're both broken right now. And it's Ruby's in despair, and it's just hit Yang the reality of that. And it plays out nicely. I don't think there's a thing to criticize here that, Yang broke down on her own. Yeah, they both broke down and they're just steps from each other, and neither of them can bring themselves to do anything for a second, and that makes sense. And yeah, RWBY cracking like that really makes sense. It's not just how impossible everything is, but how personal it is now too, and the idea of that. Not just how horrible that thing is, because Yang comes in and says, that's horrible, let's not think about that. Like, the horrors of that are horrible, let's not focus on it. Yeah, but you realize that that's what happened to Mum then. So all those horrors you were thinking about not thinking about, that's what happened to your mum. And that's just... it's a punch to the gut. It's not. It's horrible, and it's horrible in a great way. Like, this is a great moment for them to share, and also it will calm some of the online people, some of the YouTube people, some of my people, because yeah, they're actually talking about this. Also, I'll just give a general note. Both VAs do great, but especially Barbara does really good here. She just did a great job, and I criticized some of her stuff earlier, like, in the first episode or two, her stuff really wasn't landing as well. I think it was because it was being jokey or strong, and not that Yang shouldn't be those things, but it wasn't clicking. This really clicked. She hit a good note here, so great job. Also, yeah, the idea that, RWBY also comes to realize, hey, that's why she doesn't want me dead. Like, that's why she wants me kidnapped. So, layer on to all of that happened to our mom. She went through that hell. And that's the fate they want for me, too. Excellent. Isn't that the cheeriest thing you've heard today? And, that's really rough. We're gonna keep going with it, though. But I do like that they bring up that point. It's not just horrible happened to Mum, but let's be real. The logical chain that people went down, that I went down, that all of us went down, is, hey, she figured out she could do this, so she wants to make more. The only way to make more is not kill them, kidnap them. Oh wait, she's trying to kidnap RWBY. Oh, that's fantastic. And on that point, I think it says a lot about Salem, because it recontextualizes how Salem sees her, right? Because we're always like, who is RWBY to Salem? No one. She shouldn't be important. Like, she's a silver-eyed girl who messed up the plans at Beacon. That sucks. But, she's just a girl. Why would she be important to Salem? Why would Salem want her? Well, we've gone down this logical path that it's Silver Eyes thing. So, the big bad who wants to destroy everything sees our big hero, like the leader of the hero team, as a potential science experiment. Not important at all. Just something to play with and experiment on. And that's great, because just like when she talked to Yang, Yang's no one to her. Like, who do I take from you? I don't even know who you are. Same with RWBY, like, I barely know who you are. Like, you're Silver Eyes? Cool, I can experiment on you. Like, that's the level Salem puts her on in, like, threat-wise. Like, she's here, she's being annoying, she's working with Oz, but I can use her. Like, you're not the hero, you're not gonna save everybody, you're not the destined hero who I knew was coming for me since the beginning of time. You're just the experiment I haven't got to yet. It's not even vindictive like it's about Summer, it's just, no, that trait's hereditary, so happened to your mum, gonna happen to you too. Sorry about that. Like, that's fantastic, but we'll move on to the rest of this. So, the next point they covered, that, RWBY sees her plan as childish. I was being childish thinking someone would come and help, and they haven't. Okay. Still could be people on the way. It's been like a day or less. And, well, no, less, because Amity fell at night, so it's been half a day or something. So help hasn't appeared overnight, but you are traveling continents. But also, yeah, like, I do like that both of them here face their failure. They go, well, both of our plans sucked, and I'll get to the second half in a minute. But, Yang comes in with this idea, that blind optimism isn't great, but no optimism means we've already lost. And I think that's a good lesson if we move forward. People complain that RWBY's just the optimistic, yay, go-getter, the bright spark of hope, everything's gonna work out. And we face that doesn't work. But I like Yang's middle ground. Like, we shouldn't not be optimistic. We shouldn't, plan to fail. We shouldn't just expect everything to go bad, because if we do that, we're never gonna win. There's no winning. But, let's be measured about this. Let's take these lessons and learn, We can't just go in optimistic that everything is gonna turn out. But we need confidence, we need positivity to get anything done. So, if RWBY moving forward in our story has that kind of idea, where she's not just total optimism all the time, not just happy-go-lucky, which she was moving away from anyway, but people see her as that still, no development RWBY, which I don't agree with at all. But from here, if we change her outlook here to that, we're going to be positive and optimistic, but we're going to be real, and we're not going to pursue an idea because it's going to work, let's do this. That is a good change for RWBY. It's a good development for her as a leader and as a character that keeps her in the same vein without maybe some of the complaints people had. So hopefully that goes somewhere, and we'll get to the second half. Actually, before I do, I'll just talk about the line that comes after this. We need hope. True, we need to take risks. Alright, I gotta address this. So this episode is called Risk, or Risks, I can't remember. Anyway, the only thing that really annoys me about that is, you know when, like... Okay, so a lot of the time I really like RWBY titles, because oftentimes they mean, like, 2 or 3 things happening in the episode, and I usually compliment the titles, or I do to myself at least, going, oh, you know, it applies here, here, and here. And you might say that that's here as well, people are taking risks, but they keep saying risks. And it's like, you ever go to like an improv comedy night, and they're like, give us a word, and you're like, risk, and then as they're doing the performance, they're like, risk, every time they do the sentence with risk in it, they emphasize it, like, hey, we're putting the thing in. It's like if you gave someone a subject to rap about, like an improv rap, or, you know, freestyle, and like, oh, you gotta include this word, they're gonna emphasize it as it comes up and keep trying to use it, and I just noticed they kept saying risk, and it got on my nerves a little bit. It took away from some of the speeches, because I'm like, I'm sick of hearing the word. After like the 3rd time you said risk, I'm sick of hearing the word risk. But anyway, we'll keep going to Yang's bit. Yeah, to emphasize my point, because I, just re-listened to the speech, Yang says risks 3 times this speech, so that's 3 already. I feel like I want to keep count almost. But the idea is that your risk didn't pay off, and mine didn't either, but we achieved things we didn't really mean to do. We got Oscar back, which, we didn't have him lost when we came up with the plans, but that's still good. We got a warning out, which hopefully will help other people at least, even if we can't get help. And equating themselves that both of them took a journey here, took a path that were risky and didn't pay off, and equating that to their mom, saying, well, then we can assume, or I assume, that she took a risk when she went to whatever she did, confront Salem or whatever her mission was, and it too didn't pay out. Didn't, turn a profit, didn't work out. But, that doesn't change that she's still my hero. That, she took a risk that didn't work, but that doesn't change that she's still so important. And I like Yang talking about something like this. It's really nice, that, yeah, she's her mom. She is her mom. And, it means so much to her. And it means so much to RWBY. You can see RWBY crying here. Because I almost wanted to say, and so are you, but you can sort of almost leave it off like they did and imply it. Like, RWBY is also one of her heroes, because they're taking risks. They didn't pay off, but they didn't, do nothing. That they did take these risks, they did try. And that's something. Which we can tie back to some of the speeches that people were mad about, we should just do something. I don't know what I'll do, but I'll do something. I criticize that. But if they're wrapping it up like this, it's not a bad way to do it. So we'll keep going. Oh, actually, no we won't. I'll just bring it up real quick. They say that Amity fell. Like, oh, we tried and Amity fell. We haven't gone back to Pietro or Maria in a while. Are they dead? Did they just crash in a giant satellite and they're just dead? Or are they out in the frozen tundra and just dead? Like, what happened to them? Do we never see them again? They Team Rocket it, but they just don't come back? Like, well, we floated off sideways, touchdown somewhere out in the ice, so Grim killed us, or we died, or whatever. Is it gonna be a heroic shot of, Maria on the back of the chair while he's got it, and it's got, crazy claws climbing up over, a little ice ridge to come back to town or something at the end? I don't know. Okay, I'm just seeing the length of my recording. I'm gonna try and be faster about this. So we've jumped forward a bit. The only bit of action we really get in this episode, and it's Penny trying to leave, and she's fighting and fighting and fighting, and obviously the team chases out to follow. And I do like that the team work together here. The physics of it aside of how some of those hook shots work, but whatever. Doesn't matter. But essentially, yeah, we try and wrap up Penny. RWBY's holding onto her, she's trying to jet away. Blake fires off the part of Gamble Shroud that's the sword part and wraps it around, one of Penny's hands, and Ren does the other side, and then Weiss does a gravity glyph under them to hold them down, and then she can't hold that long, so Penny's trying to leave again, and then for some reason Emerald has her guns back, she comes in and puts the last 2 chains and pulls her down, and they say, okay, what do we do? And Penny's fighting in and out of this. And we bring up that thing that people have talked about, kill me and I'll make sure the power goes to you. It's not... It's a bad plan because we don't want Penny to die. But it is an interesting proposition that, hey, we can direct this right now. And anyone who's seen my recent theories, I was gearing up to be like, oh, this is how it's going to land on Emerald, because I did do that as well. Which is a good theory, go check it out. And still might happen, I got an idea. But, this is an interesting idea. And also asking RWBY to kill her. The journey we've gone on is an interesting one, and to end up here, and they do wrap it back to all the way back in that alleyway in a moment. But yeah, the idea that we've got to this point, kill me and I'll give you the maiden powers. And we know it's not going to happen here. We know that Ruby and them probably aren't going to get the powers, but still, it's an interesting proposition. And while I don't think it will happen for Ruby, or any of the girls, like the main team, it would be an interesting thing to bring Cinder back into hating Ruby. You know, she's been very power hungry. If we put the powers on Ruby, at least then they'll be back at head-to-head again. Because, you know, at least then it would sort of close that gap of like, oh, why would Cinder care about Ruby anymore? She wouldn't, but that rivalry is still there. How do we make it? Well, give Ruby the thing that she wants desperately. And then for the rest of the show, it's like, I'll never be complete until I kill Ruby. That could happen, I guess. But I really don't think so, because they don't want to make them too OP. Which is exactly why it goes to side characters. But the fact, yeah, we get reaction shots from everybody, and Ruby says, Penny says, please, like, please kill me. Like, whoa, we're getting real serious here. It's not just an option, it's a, I'm asking you to. So now we bring back the lesson for Penny, like, you know, what do we do? And, you know, I can't fight it, and then we bring back the lesson that Nora passed on, the it's only a part of you. Which, you know, I guess is fair, and it leads to the realization that, hey, maybe we can beat it with aura, you know, boost aura and overcome programming. I made a video long ago about why they should never hack Penny before the season started, or like writers started one of those. And yeah, I never liked it. I thought the soul should be important. You know, the soul should mean she can't be hacked, because she's more than that. They play with that a bit here, but if you've seen my previous reviews, you know I hate the "you're still in there, Penny." You're, you know, anyone, any story, whether you're still in there, you know, brainwashing, hacking, whatever. I never liked that storyline, and we are doing that storyline, but yeah, we'll cover the next bit. So, I will say, I do like that Jons comes in clutch. At least we're making him useful, which is nice. And the idea is he boosts her aura, and her soul becoming stronger means that she can keep the virus at bay. But not forever, which is nice. It's very quick though. I know that like his ability, it should be quick, but the tension build-up was like 4 seconds. It was like, boost your aura, hold up hands. Okay, it's done. Cool, we did it. So at least it's not completely dumb, but it was a real anticlimax. Oh, that's fine. Hey, nod, we're fine. Hug, hug, hug. But yeah, they bring it back to, you know, you have a soul. You are not just a machine, which brings it back to that alleyway like I talked about, all the way back in Volume 2. So that's nice. But, that settles that for a second. We got another person to cover real quick. So, I want to know who wrote Emerald's dialogue, because people might hate it. I love it. She sounds the most real of anybody. She says, like, you're wrong, by the way. You know, you guys have been getting your asses kicked, but, you know, some of that's my fault, but, you know, whatever. I doubt you're in the same place you started at. You're gonna take hits. And, like, one of the things people talk about with animation is every line has to matter. Like, all of your lines you put on the page have to mean something, because it's so much of a harder process. That's why, like, when you see scripts, sometimes there'll be just, like, 1 or 2 lines cut, and, like, they're basically the same, but they just cut lines because it's just less work. And I like that they have her saying, you know, but, you know, whatever, maybe, or some of that my fault, like, chucking in little lines, because it feels like a real person. And, except for the last bit, which is like, oh, you know, whatever, and looks away, like, oh, this is very, you know, tropey. Like, oh, don't, you know, whatever, don't, give me attention, I don't really like it, whatever. That was very tropey, but, the rest of her dialogue I really liked. And she out and out says, I switch sides, which, you know, again, they bring up trust in a second, like, okay, we gotta trust that you know, you're telling the truth, we can't know, I guess, too bad Robin isn't here. But, yeah, like, oh, she's switching sides. She says she is, for now I believe her, we all believe her for now. And, it'd be interesting when Cinder comes back into play, but either way. It does feel kinda like they just laugh everything off, but I guess we gotta keep moving forward, and I didn't mean to say that as it came out of my mouth. Legitimately, I don't have a script and I just paused, but I'll leave it in because in this case, not just the Monty, it's true, the plot has to keep going. So for now, we're just gonna have to accept that they go with this because they need some kind of win, and it's a positive. In the moment, I can see they just go with this. People might be mad about it, but we don't have that many episodes left. We want Emerald on side. She can be very helpful. And, yeah, we'll keep going. So, to help the audience scoot past Emerald's side switch, and we're just accepting that, Ozpin comes back and, does his talk, talking about equating it to a fairy tale and saying that, you know, you shouldn't just run from things, and I never should have run from you when you discovered the truth. Now, good, we need that, and like I said, it covers up the Emerald thing because you're stacking them, and we're going to focus on Ozpin here because that's a longer running thing. And, he owns up that he never should have hid from the truth, and I think that Oz realizes that this is a world is screwed situation, so this might be your final run at it, or close to. By which I mean neither of them can die, but she really might be on course to get all the relics this time. I still think Ozpin is motivated by that realization more than his emotion at this point, just being real, like, okay, need to own up and move because this might be one of the end times if we don't, so time to put the cards on the table. However, I praise the writing, but I don't like when they do this. It's very forced, very fake, where they go down the line and each person says part of the line and the next person finishes off their sentence, and they do it 1, 2, 3. Yang, Blake, Weiss. It was hard at first, and, I think I understand now. And then, trust is risk. Risk again, so it's 4. And it's just, going down the line like that is very, like what I said, that Emerald feels quite natural. Going down the line like that doesn't feel natural. It sort of works, I guess. Like, it works in fiction like this, but I don't know. Following when I'm just like, that sounded so natural. Great work on her dialogue, and then it's like, hey, we magically know what the next person's gonna say down the line 1, 2, 3, and we speak in order, and no one jumps in on anyone, and we're all thinking the same thing with the same sentence structure, and we're doing this like we rehearsed it. That just stuck out to me, but we'll keep going. Moving on, Ozpin says, "I hope I risk you can trust on me again." So that's 5. And then we go to Jons saying, "We can't amp her forever because Penny can still feel the virus." And he goes, "Well, maybe we have to go to the vault because Ironwood's on the countdown for the hour." And they go, "Well," and then to RWBY, "That's a risk we hadn't considered. So we're coming up to a plan to go to the vault. Risk again, that's 6. And, yeah, so they're going to go to the vault. I've seen people talk about how, we could use Emerald here. We can, make someone appear as someone else like we did with Hazel. That's a good setup for that. So, make them believe someone else is Penny or Penny is someone else and swap identities around. And believe it or not, there was a cut just there. Maybe you can hear it, maybe you can't. I just put out a whole theory on the top of my head in my thoughts. Like, oh, this is what I think will happen. And I'm not going to put it here. I'm going to make its own little video. So that'll probably be this week. Expect that. But the recording is deleted. I'm just gonna remember it. But yeah, no, this should be interesting. Especially, yeah, Emerald there is gonna make things really cool. Hopefully we can pull some nice tricks on Ironwood. Another option I had talked about before in most other theories, was the idea that the team just get the staff and try and run away with it. Because nothing says the staff has to be in Atlas to keep Atlas afloat. If they take the staff for themselves and never use it for anything, in theory, it should still keep Atlas afloat even from across the world. It doesn't necessarily have to be there physically, it's just guarded there because everyone's guarded one place and they're guarding the thing they need. So that makes a lot of sense. Because, of course you would. Like, you wouldn't, if you use the staff to raise Atlas, you wouldn't keep it in Vacuo because you can't trust that the people in Vacuo aren't going to use it, so you keep it for yourselves. So, I like the idea that they grab the staff and run away with it, just vowing to never use it. Because I don't mind that option. We'll play along, we'll open the vault, grab the staff and run. And then, Penny's not the target anymore. We can get the staff out of here and Salem will follow us. That sucks. Saves a lot of people if she follows us. And, then there's no reason to attack anyone but them. There's no reason to bomb Mantle, She's gonna chase us. Then Atlas is safe. There's no reason she would waste time killing Ironwood and everyone else in theory, because why would she? That's not what her forces are for. She's gonna get that staff, that's all she cares about. So I'm gonna skip over the phone call where RWBY says she'll do it, because, she says, well, she'll do it. This is the only bit I'm not too happy with, because not that I'm happy to see Neo, I'm always happy to see Neo. You know I am. And, if you want to see my most recent theory that I'm real proud of and still could apply, even though some of the setup's different because she's here now, but it still definitely applies, go check that out. It'll also be in this end card coming up real soon. But I thought that Neo and would demand that Cinder bring her RWBY, which still might happen. She might sit back from this upcoming battle and wait for, Cinder to do that. But, I wouldn't be surprised if we get some double switches here. So we get, you think Penny is someone, and it's not, it's someone else. And then, you think someone else is someone else, and it's also, Neo, because you got 2 illusionists in town. So, yeah. But what we learn is that the setup is that Penny comes alone to the entrance of the academy. And Watts, Cinder, and Neo know that, so they'll be waiting for them with a plan. Cinder wants those maiden powers, but, Neo has the lamp, and she wants RWBY, everyone's going to be converging in one place, and this sets up for what I thought might be the case, that the last, 3 episodes is going to be one big incident. But I'll just do, a final thoughts. I'll wrap it up here, jump final thoughts. So, I was on Twitter this morning, obviously, before the episode dropped, and I was just looking at what people were saying, and they were basically that lots of the people involved in the show were very interested in the response to this. They've been waiting for this episode. Now, you can see why, not just the love confession, but the setup for the end and the Emerald switching sides. And it really does feel like very similar to Chapter 3 and Chapter 5, that the ending will be 3 episodes of one big incident. We're going to start next episode, everyone's converging on one place, it's go time. Mercury and Tyrion are out, Hazel is dead, Salem's on recovery, we have Emerald swap sides, we have the RWBY gang deciding to go to the vault, we have them needing to go to the vault, you've got Crow and Robin loose along with Winter and Marrow, you've got the Aesops on Ironwood's side, you have Penny going to the vault with them, we have Cinder who wants Penny, we have Neo who wants RWBY, everyone going to the same place, which, is how this always goes. The fall of X is going to be that. So, we have everyone lined up. People are mostly recovered, Nora is recovered, she's going to keep the scars, she seems fine. Rens, good to go. So we got the big ending coming in. I still think it might just end with Salem coming back. We don't see her again this volume until the ending, which not too happy about, but we'll see. The other option, I think, is we get through who gets the staff and everything in the next 2 episodes, and Salem comes back for the last one and chases them off. That could happen. And your ending scene is Vacuo or something, if we get one this time. And what I wanted to say is, everyone on Twitter, Eddie, the creators, were talking about how they wanted people to react to this episode, and this is the episode of conversations and speeches. This is everyone talking, everyone figuring out how they stand, where they stand for the end. We've put all the chess pieces out, to use a term that this show loves. So, now we need to execute. And that'll be how this all shakes out, and what we're really gonna end with. Hey, just because I can, even though this RWBY image is quite nice, watch this. And, there. Yeah, I made that while I was waiting for the episode to come on, so you can keep that on screen. It's Salem's final form. Salesman. But yeah, so I really am happy with this episode in that we got all the talking out of the way, which is nice because one of the things we always have a problem with when there's big battles is people standing around talking. Now, obviously, anime type things, that always happens. People talk when they fight, but people standing around too much is an issue. People trying to change sides or not is an issue. We get all that out beforehand, and then we just throw everyone into the fray and see how it shakes out. So, if they're going to be speeching at each other, it's just going to be the important people for the big moments, and that's good. Oh, and I meant to point out earlier that Oscar, again, looking much more like Oz, the way he walks around, the way he's holding his cane. Obviously, he became Oz for a little bit, and that's going to happen, but even when he wasn't, you can see the influence of Oz on him a lot more. I don't know if you can hear it or not, but I'm starting to not lose my voice, but it's starting to go on me a little bit. So we'll wrap this up real soon. But good episode. Not super not high impact, but lots of things happened. We got the I love you. We got what their plans are for the future. I think we might still be setting up for Rand's death. Go watch that video. But yeah. So I think that's it. I'm pretty happy with how it shakes out. Obviously the setup for the ending is crazy. Content will keep coming from me, of course. But yeah, I guess until next time, remember, the worst thing about predicting a horrible death with a theory is that you're so happy, yet so sad, when you turn out to be right. Oh my god. Anyway, until next time, my name is Rigor. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope I did alright.